Thank you for staying with me on Morning Spring this morning. We'll be talking about the judiciary and how that particular arm of government could be improved to entrench, the real democracy that we're all proud of, so that we have equity, justice, and you know what justice do to a people? It foster peace because everybody knows there will be consequences for whatever you do, irrespective of whose ox is God. And these are some of the issues. So when you have a just society, peace reigns. And when peace reigns, then you can talk about prosperity and the people flourish. So you see the connection with having a very efficient, judiciary. So it's not just about my lord, may I, you may proceed counsel. No, not just about that. It's about how this is connected to having a society that flourishes, and that can only be possible when every arm of government do what they are supposed to do, and everyone as well. And we have been speaking with research and impact evaluate associate Samuel Atiku, done at the University of Bristol. He's been speaking with me. I hope you are there, Samuel. Okay, Samuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
very well. Now, still talking about the judiciary, but we move to the treasure base of the nation. That's what it's supposed to be. Talking about River State, well, it's been more like a drama base of the nation, and those drama they are not comedic in nature. It has been somewhere horrific, by the way. But the River State governor, similarly Fubara, he has in a kind of way invoked divine judgment on judges who allegedly accept bribes to manipulate justice. Okay. And Fubara made this statement during the opening of the 2024-2025 legal year and rededication service at the Cathedral Church of St. Paul Anglican Communion, Diobo, in Port Harcourt on Thursday. He was very vocal, talking in that particular place. I'll allow you just take, a look at an excerpt of what he said at that program. All right, when the video drops, the clip, we will have it. But part of what he said was he used the word paymasters to some judges, and he said, divine judgment will follow you, whatever that means. And he made that remark. He said, some of you claiming to be legal luminaries, you know the truth, but still go on air to pacify your paymasters. In this case, it was, ramming the bar and the bench in the same rope to say you go ahead to pacify your paymasters, twisting the law upside down. In the words of Governor Fubara, God will judge you. He emphasized that judges represent God within the justice system and should deliver judgment without fear or bias. He warned that the far-reaching implications of court rulings require judges to exercise great care in their decisions. And so he said, let me quote him, judges, you are God we see. Your position is to stand and defend us. Tell the truth to whoever comes before you. And, he said many things as well. He said, and he acknowledged that many judicial officers had faced threats, physical assaults, and frivolous petitions meant to intimidate them into submission. He said, a couple of things that we'll get to. And he said, if you are to be a businessman, you will not, invest in Nigeria because it has an atmosphere of any honest and just anything go. If you know somebody in the judiciary, you always have things your way. So now, putting the peculiarity of River State into focus right now, Samuel, what do you make of this talk by Governor Sim Fubara? In fact, the body language, the tone, the face countenance was very strong while he was addressing an array of the bar and the bench. And he's telling them, you are dancing to the tune of a paymasters. God will judge you. What do you make of Governor Fubara's statement?
I mean, it's 100%, to a degree, is correct. River State has not been a good case study of how a justice system should look like. If you remember, during the Amechi era, they put padlocks and lock up the court for months, right? And then the former governor that is now FCT chairman also had his own test case also. And then, of course, we have these issues. I think the key thing there is that why it's true that judges, right, should actually be like God, meaning that, yeah, rhetorically, you be like God in terms of your ethical standard needs to be higher. But we know that they are humans. And as such, you need to build process and systems around them to make sure they act like God. If you don't put those systems and process around them, they are going to act the way they are acting today. And that's just at the heart of it. The first thing is the check and balance needs to be there. And the truth is that the governor himself cannot exhume himself from the process and the problem we are seeing. It's part of the problem. The reason is because the executive could actually introduce laws to govern the conducts. Whether we like it or not, you could introduce law that goes through the judicial system to govern the conduct, the ethical standard through which you hold judges and all those factors in there. That's one. Two, in terms of funding the justice system itself, again, I will reiterate that I like talking about money. It's important to ensure that it's free from any political and economic pressure. I will give you this money, give me this one. And then you don't pay. I mean, just for context, some judges are earning maybe 100,000, 150,000, and they're sitting over a criminal case. Just think about that. A judge earning 100,000, 150,000, and sitting over a criminal case that is in excess of 50 billion. And the person is dangling maybe 10 billion in front of that judge. If you don't have ethical standard systems and checks and balance around you, 99% of the people will fall into that group, especially when the pressure comes. Remember, we all have families. The economic pressure comes around you. It will take high degree of integrity, whether you find that in your religion, in your beliefs, or in your high ethical standards. And that's why when people, I mean, Nigeria, we're very religious, we believe in God. But just imagine you don't believe in God. I'm just imagine that for a second. That people don't believe in God. They don't believe, oh, your actions you take in the world have consequences outside of this place. What do you think will happen? People will take the 10 billion and go and do things. That's why you have to put checks and balance around them. You have to ensure that those funding itself, how the fund goes to them. Because if you're a governor and you're giving a judge car, and then you are doing all those kind of things, impressing and all those kind of things, what are you doing? Are you putting economic pressure on them in terms of the salary they are earning, or what are you doing? That's second. Number three, again, I'll reiterate again, the code of conduct. You saw the president of the United States make a public speech about the code of conduct of Supreme Court justice in the US because they felt they were deviating. And we know they run a partisan system. Nigeria will run a non-partisan system. In the US, they don't care. They know this is a Democrat, this is a Republican, they are party men. Put them in the same system and they expect them to actually toggle it out. They are not hiding that. That means they have their biases. But in Nigeria, we run a non-partisan system. We don't appoint political party members to be judged. No, we ensure that the people that we are judged should be independent, drawing from the lessons that we picked up from Britain. The unfortunate truth is that the code of conduct governing those systems seems to have lost in the wind. So once a governor appoints you to become a judge, you tend to begin to think about it as if you are from the same political party. That needs to end. Then more importantly, the appointment process itself needs to be transparent. How do you appoint your wife to become a judge, the Supreme Court? How did all those things come into play all of a sudden in the country? We need to look closely at that and ensure that it doesn't happen. If you have to introduce legislation to stop that from happening, we need to introduce it. Yeah. And the executive can do that. The legislators themselves can do that. The oversight body, which is the National Judicial Council, needs to be on its feet. It's unfortunate. That's where we go. Then aside from there, I think for journalists themselves also, I think we need to take a little bit of training around the psychological insight into how decision-making is coming into play, and so that we can understand how we can factually capture bias. It's been done in the academia. They do it around in the world. And that's why I've always said that it's not enough for us to do compliance. I mean, it's not enough for us to do financial audits. When you say, oh, Accountant General of the Federation Auditor General of the Federation. The Auditor General of the Federation should not just be auditing financial statement. It should be auditing compliance to ethical standard, compliance to laid out procedures, compliance to ethical codes. And the way you can do that is to actually look closely at the psychological insight and capture bias and document and present to people.
Yeah.
We need to strengthen our Auditor General beyond just looking at the National Judicial Council. If the National Judicial Council, which is a body within itself, can't do its role, let the Auditor General be empowered to step into that mode. I know, yeah, it sounds weird, but we've seen it happen. People are already doing psychological insight into decision making by judges. So we need to ensure that we build those systems, process in place. We need to be a country that everybody in the world will look up to. The truth is that we have the brain in the country. If you walk on the street of Nigeria, you see a primary school student, you sit down and you sit the person down, the person will critically analyze the problem he's having in his house, the problem he's having in society, and give you that insight. Take that insight and make decisions. We have a fantastic country. We can build this. The problem of Nigeria is man-made. We created our problems and we can solve our problems. And the way we can solve our problem is to listen to ourselves well, listen to ourselves and take actions, progressive actions to correct those abnormalities in our society. With that, we can build a society that we will be proud of. We sing national anthems. Let's build a society that we'll be proud of. I think we can solve these problems. Not just saying, oh, God will judge you. God will judge you, yes. But in this country, let's begin to judge people that actually make wrong choices. Let's begin to actually hold them accountable. That's where we can actually fix our problems.
All right. Interesting to note that, you know, as they say, you know, around here, they say it's a quote-unquote four-man prayer to say, God day. That's when you have been cheated and you have nothing to do. You say, God day. Okay, well, for whatever that means. All right. I think the clip is ready now. I'd like you to take a look, and you know, viewers as well.
Some of you say you're legal luminary. You know the truth. You will go on air just to pacify your paymasters, to turn the law upside down. We all know the law. When it comes to issues that has to do with the administration of governance in states, it is the state high court. It doesn't matter whether you go and join INEC police. It is a straightforward. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that one. And you stand and you say you're doing the right thing, God will judge you.
All right, that was Governor Fubara on that matter. Now, 3 or 4 questions for me, and we are done the program. Number 1, see what is said. And many persons have said it as well. To say is a situation. We are not lawyers here, but we are speaking about the impact of some of these judgments on the generality of the people and the democracy. Samuel, that some persons know that a particular case can be heard at the state high court level, you know, but because they don't trust, in some cases, they don't trust that the state executive will not have influence on the judiciary, they'd rather take it to a federal high court, you know, to say, okay, maybe we can have some, you know, judgment here, something that could be heard, you know, in a particular case. And, you know, lawyers having briefs have so many reasons why they do what they do. Some persons might feel, I want to deal with somebody, I will not bring this case. For example, it's supposed to be heard in Osun State. I will take you to Jalingo in Taraba, so that will frustrate you. By the time you are traveling, by the time you are paying more, you will rather say, I'm done. I'm no more doing this thing again. And, you know, something that could be heard in Osun State here. What do you say to these matters? That case that could be adjudicated at the state high court are taken to federal high court just on the excuse of the fact that I don't trust the state high court because the executive might have an influence on it. I'd rather take it to federal high court, or from some person to want to flex and say, this case between you and I, would rather take it to Meduguri. And so by the time you travel, you'll be tired and you say, I'm no more. So what do you say to these kind of issues?
I mean, that's a criminal action. I think it's all rooted in all this colonial concept of For instance, if you want to do something, you take a case to a particular different location to frustrate the person or force the person to go through the people, and then they can actually clamp down on them. So it's all about influence, and it all boils down to one thing. It's about the accountability mechanism in the justice system. I cannot be a resident of, say, Osun State. I'm earning 50,000 naira a salary, which is even higher than the average that people in Osun State are earning. And you expect me to go to Maiduguri and to go travel to Maiduguri just because somebody dragged me into a court case. That is wrong. That is not ethical itself. That's all built into these ethical issues. I will say that what we need to do is to ensure that that judicial accountability mechanism needs to be strengthened. We need to actually have it. Where do you go to? And if people flaunt it, there should be repercussion for that.
Yeah.
Because again, if I take somebody to court and then I don't have any basis for taking the person to court, I should be penalized for that, and the person should be reimbursed. Remember, it's not just about the person's time. The person will pay for a lawyer. The person will do a whole lot of things. The person's time is, in fact, some people lose their job because of all these things, and nothing happens after that. Then and then they just say, oh, pay him maybe 50,000 naira as compensation. No, we need to actually ensure that doesn't happen. And that's why we need to strengthen the accountability mechanism around what we are doing.
All right. How about the case of, people taking a case that's supposed to be heard by state high court to federal high court? Is it a matter of choice?
It's wrong. That's why the accountability mechanism should tell us what we need to do. It is completely wrong. We cannot be doing that as a people. We cannot be case that should go to the court, should go to the magistrate, should go to the magistrate. You as a judge at the federal high court, you know which case to come to you. And if somebody brings in a case, you dismiss it on that, and you even penalize the person so that other people will not follow through that. And if you accept it, meaning that you flaunt your ethical issue, the National Judicial Council needs to step in immediately and say you cannot do that, and then you should be penalized for that. And
some will say it's because
everybody will now take caution. But if you allow somebody to do it, then everybody will do it. That's what we have now.
Some are saying it's because they think the state executive usually have an influence. The governor will influence the matter. So let's take it out of the reach of the state and take it to a federal high court. How about that concern?
So it's because there's no transparency. So the problem is that even the person taking it to the federal high court is because he presumes that he has influence over the federal high court. And that's why you're running away from the state. Because if you don't have enough influence at the state level. And then on and on like that. That's why we have to take the justice system together.
All right.
We have to take it together. Yeah, we know we have a structure of government we run in the country. We need to strengthen the institution of those governments across board. We cannot just say, they are stronger at the federal level. There's nothing called stronger at the federal level. It needs to cut across both chains.
All right. Part of what Governor Fubara said in that statement, where he used the word paymasters, I'd like us to go back to it, and that was when he said you are panning to your paymasters, and in this case, taking the peculiarity, I used the word earlier, of what is happening between his camp and the camp of his erstwhile Oga, because that's the way he referred to him in the past, Governor Wike, who is now the minister in charge of the FCT, and he's saying some legal luminaries, some judges are dancing to the tune of the paymasters. In this case, how do we separate dancing to the tune? Does that mean that anything that doesn't favor his camp is the judiciary dancing to the tune of the paymasters? When it favors him, then the judiciary is working, because politicians have a way of throwing the judiciary under the bus, casting aspersion when something doesn't favor them. But when it favors them, you see them say, there's this language they use, it's a triumph for democracy. The court is the last hope of the common man. These are some of the words they use. But when it doesn't favor them, they throw the whole judiciary under the bus to say everything is bad. So when he's saying some of you are dancing to the tune of your paymasters, is it, in your own opinion, is it the substance of the matter, or is just the politician in him that is talking?
I think it's the substance of the matter. I mean, we know. I mean, those are, I would say that, yeah, the substance of the matter, because those are symptomatic issues. It's a symptom of the problem. The symptom of the problem is that you can choose and then you can shovel things around as it favors you. Because, again, I can go to Rivers State and presume that I may not get judgment, I may not get fair treatment in Rivers State. Then I try to seek other options to actually force the, because again, the time it takes for you to get justice in Nigeria is another big topic for us to unpack. So people now jostle around. The truth is this, those are symptomatic issues. This is the symptom of a big problem. Some people will believe, especially if you look closely at people in opposition, they believe that if they go to a federal court, they will not get judgment. I mean, we've seen incidents, for instance, in Lagos State, that they need to pass a law that says that, oh, any corruption case that has to do with the money of Lagos State need to be prosecuted in Lagos State. And we see other states picking that up also, because they presume that, oh, as at that time, the people in Abuja will use the federal high court to intimidate their former governor and all those kind of things. So you see, those are symptomatic issues moving around, and it depends on where you are on the scale of things. For instance, if you are at the state level, you are in opposition, you believe, oh, it's the federal. So it's the influence of the justice system. That is wrong. The justice system should be independent, standing alone, where you know you walk into, you will get judgment. Whether it favors you, whether it doesn't favor you. Well, I mean, that's why it's blind. You have this blindfold over that, and the weight of the judgment can move anywhere. But the substance is that if you know you've not done anything wrong, you know you have your evidence, you know you have the burden of evidence, you have the proof it takes, and you present it before a very, very dependent system, they should be able to give you what you want. But unfortunately, we are not getting that. And that's why you see, in fact, if you go on the street of Osun State today and you ask anybody, if somebody slaps you, do you know you can take the person to court and then you could actually get the person for assault and all those things? People will tell you, a guy would rather slap my own back. Let's talk it, because they know if they go there, they will most likely not get anything.
Waste of time, yeah.
And that's even in Osun State. That's not even political, right? That's even somebody that is not a politician. For instance, and if you have the political, you sprinkle the political distance over it, becomes even more complicated. So that's why we need to be very careful how we approach this. I don't care whether it's the Rivers State governor that is actually at the receiving end or the former governor that is at the receiving end. I think we need to balance the scale to ensure that we fix our system so that anything that goes through that thing, the outcome itself is something that we can be proud of. I think that's where we are missing it as a country, and we need to fix that up.
All right, just two questions. Number one, as a research and impact, evaluator, I'd like you to tell me and our viewers, what impact does it have? And I'm still going back to River State. When you have a court recognizing a 3 manners of assembly led by Okojumbo, there is a court, I think an appeal court, that I just said, the Martin Amaule-led House of Assembly that has been, set aside before, he has upheld their candidacy to say, yes, either they moved or they didn't move, they are still House of Assembly members. So in River State, you have a 3 manners of assembly led by Okojumbo. Those are the ones that are loyal to Governor Fubara. And then the Martin Amaule-led House of Assembly, 26 or 27 of them, calling themselves House of Assembly, approved by the Court of Appeal recently, or validated rather, loyal to the camp of the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike. Now, as a researcher, the impact of this on an average Riverian, the way they are called, Rivers people in Nigeria, to say, how can we continually have 2 House of Assembly and both of them have validation from our court of law? What does this do to us?
I think it's a very sad situation that we find ourselves, and the impact is there for everybody to see. The first thing is that we should all remember that elected government officials at the executive level are elected to become custodian of our resources, meaning that they use our resources to improve our lives. On the other side of things, we elect legislative arms to become the check and balance, to actually hold them accountable so that these funds that they are custodian of, the decision making, the resources of the state that they are used, that they should use to improve our lives, needs to be used to improve our life. Those are the building blocks of how our systems are built. Now, if the state, the safeguarding principle that we've put in place, the accountability mechanism have been shattered by the justice system, whether we like it or not, it's been broken into pieces. Meaning that the structure, the system itself is scattered. What do you think happens to the resources? I can assure you today that in 4 years' time, we can always say that a lot of things had happened in terms of the fund, and everybody will have opinion about whether the fund was stolen or misappropriated or not spent well. But when we have a strong system, we ensure that we capture that before it happens. That's the first problem. The perception also, when you look at River State, the perception is that these people are, the problem is in there, and the problem is already materializing on the streets. Because when you see two people arguing, if you don't resolve it within that system, it will cascade to the streets. And that's why you see burnings. And that's why the fragmentation of what has happened at that top level is already happening on the street, meaning that we are creating a chaos on the street of River State. And the implication of that on businesses is there. Remember, in River State, almost 80% of people working in that space work in the informal sector. And when you go deep and you begin to hack those businesses, they face the brunt, because when they are burning things, they burn and destroy their assets. They are the ones that pay the brunt. And remember, the resources also should trickle down, should help them improve their life. The fund is not trickling down. So we have a system where we are getting lost economically, we are losing a lot of things economically. Rather than have stability, we have an economic crisis that has been created just by fragmentation of egos, right? You have been the former governor. You stepped out of the place, leave the place alone. Let other people govern. You want to influence things. To what degree? Why are you influencing the thing? If you are influencing the thing to better the life of people, who we know. But the interest that you have in influencing things is not about the people. It's about holding on to power so that you can control and shape things in your own life, which is completely wrong. So it's unfortunate when you look at the impact of it. The long-term impact is simple. The perception that people have about River State, if you go on the street of Osun, ask anybody today, they will tell you that, River State is a no-go area. And remember where River State is coming from. At some point in time, it was ridden a lot of, cultism, a whole lot of things were flying all over the whole state. So do you want to teach us back into those bad past before? You know what it took to take us away from that? You know how much resources the federal government had to spend to remove, how will I call it now, the militancy that was happening across the river, of course. So do we want to push ourselves back into that area? No, we don't want to. So that's why this thing needs to be resolved as quick as possible. And I keep wondering, and the president needs to talk to his minister. That is not for you to do. You are not the governor of River State. And I'm not saying that the governor of River State is also right. He may be culpable, may have his own issues. But the institution needs to be preserved.
Right.
When institutions fail, country fail.
Exactly. And especially the evaluation that you have just said. I mean, the impact, maybe that speaks to the reason why a group of young persons can just go to a local government secretariat and light it up, burn it. Nothing has happened. Many of the secretariats now in the past 2 or 3 weeks have been burnt, and we don't have an arrest yet. It's making it look like that is an anarchical situation from the treasure base of the nation. But I take your final, shot on this one, your parting shot. You talked about how things can be improved if to have welfare, good and improved welfare remuneration for the judges, so that they are not triggered, so that they are not, deceived by some of these things that politicians dangled around. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu recently signed what the National Assembly said, 300% increase in the emolument and the remuneration of judicial officers. Do you see this being a game changer, or we need a lot more than that?
I think we need more than that. I think it's not just about when we talk about resources, we're not talking just about money. We're talking about a whole lot of things. For instance, I can give a good example. If you live in Abuja, for instance, as a lawyer, as a judge, if you're living in Abuja itself, you're expected to pay a minimum of maybe about, if you find a good apartment, apartment, when I say apartment, flat, for 2 point something million, you're lucky. That's how expensive Abuja is. Now, if you look at that and you look at the salary, even the 300% increase, a judge should actually be a little bit preserved, safeguarded, kept somewhere that's not easy to influence, not easy to use talks and touts and all those things to intimidate. So for a lawyer, for a judge to actually stay in Abuja in a secure place, what does it entail? That's the resources of the state. The state needs to provide that resources, and it needs to provide, and that's why we need to find a system whereby. So how do you provide that security? You provide it through the police, and then all of a sudden, because ABC happens, or maybe it's going against you, you withdraw those police. You withdraw the person's security.
Yeah,
that's something that we need a system to ensure that never happens. That's one. Two, when we talk about the welfare of judges, we're not just talking about salaries that they get. Their children also. Remember, their children are the receiving end. If you pass a judgment against maybe a cartel or something, they may come after your family. So what happens to their family? Some of them are afraid. We need to ensure that they are safeguarded. Their extended family also, people that are close to them that they can use to get through to them, we need to make sure that they're safeguarded. So that's just about security. When I go into education, what kind of schools do their children go? ABCD, remember, some of them are working in the most remote areas. But when we talk about the ones in Abuja, the one in the, fantastic. When you look at the magistrate in the chronics, in a very, very difficult terrain, what are we doing to ensure that at least their children have the best education? They have all those things. Those things are there for us to be. Healthcare. You see politicians, immediately they have this ailment, they are ferried abroad. Bam, come back, nothing. There's nothing here, right, to take care of people. What are we doing to actually improve their health, to ensure that? So it goes into a whole lot of shame, and we need to work more on all these things.
All right.
Yeah, so it takes a whole lot more to actually get them to the position that we wish they are, to ensure that we begin to shift things.
All right. I want to sincerely thank you, Research and Impact Evaluation Associate from the University of Bristol, Samuel Atiku. Thank you for your time and your take. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, talking about governance and having an improved nation, the kind that we are proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on the program. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. And dear viewers, these will be where we draw the curtains for today and for the week. By the way, it's been a pleasure, having this program with you all week. And you know what we do here is having frank, deep conversations about the betterment of this great nation, speaking to critical stakeholders, and that's why we do this at this time. Femi Ojo is my name. Thank you for being with me today. And of course, let me remind you that you could have a recap of this program on our YouTube channel at Western Spring TV, and other exciting programs as well. A big shout out to the production team and everyone. In everything you do this weekend, please try and enjoy yourself. As they say, problem no they finish. And please be responsible and stay alive. I'll see you next.